Hey guys, Connor Richards of PokerNews here, and this is Life Outside Poker. Hello everyone, Connor Richards of PokerNews here with Life Outside Poker. I'm here with Frankie. Frankie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Connor.
So I'm super excited to talk to you. I first got in the poker industry like 2021, 2022, and at that time you were coming up as kind of the next generation of poker vloggers. There's the OGs like Brad Owen and Andrew Nemi, and then you came in with Next Gen Poker. And in the last couple of years, you've really developed. Was just hearing you talk about how you're growing your own YouTube brand and stuff, and you've really become one of the biggest content creators in all of poker. So I'm super excited to talk to you, as a creator myself, to talk about how you become so successful. I like going back, to the beginning though. So let's start, with your early life. You grew up in Lenexa, Kansas. Is this right?
Yeah.
So I was doing a little research. Maybe you know this. Maybe I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. But did you know Wild Bill Hickok, the poker player, actually has some origins in that city?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So from what I was reading, I just looked up your hometown Wikipedia, and it says that in the early days, he was one of the first people to settle in that city. And for the younger listeners out there, Wild Bill Hickok is a poker player who was famously killed during a poker game. And he had, what was his hand? Aces and nines, aces and eights. I can't remember exactly, but it's become known as dead man's hand. So big part of poker history. And I don't know, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of made for me, right? It did seem like from early age, I loved like card games and I loved playing just any type of board game. So maybe it's whether the root, maybe I was in the same ground as where he played his poker games.
Yeah, definitely a city with roots in poker, so that would make sense. But when did you start seriously getting into poker? Was it at a younger age, or was it when you got into college?
Yeah, I just played a lot of cards as like a young child, and then got into video games as like middling adolescence. And then as I got into high school, it was just all sports. So kind of gave up the former and just went all in my athletics. And that was true until I got to college, where I went to school. They didn't have a baseball team, so I kind of like put down the glove and the bat and just, started being a full-time student. And then it didn't take long for me in my first semester of my first year of college that I got invited to my first poker game, a little home game for $10. And yeah, where it all started. Yeah, I got hooked from the very first game.
So you started off in that $10 game. How did the game go for you? Did you end up doing well in it?
I was with some like my really close friends, and I don't know if I lost $10 or won, but I believe I won like less than 10. But that feeling of just winning money for playing cards, I was like, yeah, I like this. So it wasn't really about the money. It was about the potential I could see in a game that I enjoyed a lot, that I was like making money from it. And, even in college, $10, it'll buy the next beer and you're still happy with it. So yeah, it just struck a chord in me and then my other two really close friends, Jack and Rosie. So much so that we ended up starting the YouTube channel and just playing every single day.
And what college was this and what were you studying?
So I was at Southern Memphis University, SMU for short, in Dallas, Texas. I was studying to be an engineer. I was doing industrial engineering with computer science and minor economics.
Okay, I have some friends who did computer science. I just did journalism, but what was that world like for you? Was it overwhelming for you, or did you really thrive in that?
Definitely overwhelming because I was really good at mathematics, but not necessarily like coding. So it was like a new language I was learning. I felt a really great sense of pride when a project would be done, but a great sense of stress when they were just really hard deadlines and really complex projects they required us to do. I would say overall, I didn't enjoy the actual software coding as much as I enjoyed the processes of engineering. And that's why when I ended up graduating, I took a job where I reviewed code. So I understood it, but I didn't want to write it myself. So that was my job right out of school, as a quality assurance coder.
And what was that like? Did you enjoy that environment?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I'm in downtown Dallas. Felt like, a real grown-up man as I'm like in my, it wasn't necessarily a suit, but like in my business formal attire and with my coworkers. And I really enjoyed even the kind of silly onboarding, I guess, kind of morality tests and ethical questions and dilemmas that they bring to you. I was like, oh, this is cool. I like learning about it. I excelled in my job. I thought it was really easy. and I was had so much free time from my job that I was able to like do my next gen poker stuff on the side. So it kind of hit me completely out of nowhere when my company started. The whole company had like a really bad Q3, and then at the beginning of Q4, they laid off half of the employees. So they took like a 45% a cut to their employees, and since I was new, I was one of the first ones off. So it came to a shock. 3 months into my job, I got laid off.
Yeah, I know all about that working in the journalism industry. I did an internship at a newspaper in college, and my first day there, they laid off a third of the staff. So
Yeah.
a lot of industries affected by it. But do you think that that had an impact on you getting more into poker and content creation?
Yeah, 100%. Because to anyone that's aspiring to pursue something that is an entrepreneurship or their own project, it's very scary to go off and quit that full-time salary job. It's comfortable, it's necessary to have money coming in, you have bills to pay. So for me to be laid off, it was opening the door for me to go into poker and content full-time when I probably wouldn't have on my own. So even though I was like extremely sad during that week that I got laid off, it was probably the biggest blessing of my entire life. And thankfully, I had been growing the brand for like 2.5 years up to that point, and just good timing, fate, however you want to call it. I got a really big sponsorship on the channel that essentially, after splitting with my friends, replaced my salary, full-time salary. That's how big this deal was that I signed 2 weeks after I got laid off. So once I was able to start having an inflow of cash that I didn't need to go look for another engineering job, I basically just told my parents, I was like, guys, I really want to pursue this. I'm 23 years old. I just turned 23 after I got fired. And I was like, if there's ever a time I should go all in on my dreams, it should be right now. My dad's like, okay, Frankie, you got a year to prove to me that this is going to be a reliable source of income, and I'll let you do this, or you have to go back to engineering. And it sounds like a fairy tale story, but 3 months later, the company that had gotten this big deal for us, they had a little bit of shady business going behind the scenes with their CO, which is basically just their certificate of occupancy for their poker room. And we lost that deal. And then the other deal that we had, we lost. So Next Gen Poker went from making six figures to nothing in a couple months, very short notice, and something that was out of our control. So that's when I really had to kick it into gear, as my other two friends on the channel were making full-time salaries at really successful companies. So they weren't worried about the money, but now I'm on my own. So that's when I started the Frankie C channel, and I was like, okay, I need to be able to make a income for myself. And I was lucky enough to have this really amazing story come together with Kitty at the World Poker Tour in December of 2022. And yeah, the rest is history as far as the growth of Frankie C. That was, it had to work, or else I was going to have to quit. So I made it work.
And poker content creation has probably in recent years become a lot more saturated than it used to be. There's a lot of poker content creators out there trying to be successful. How do you stand out, and how do you be successful kind of with that in mind?
Yeah, YouTube and Instagram, that what we call content, is a massive space. And like today compared to 10 years ago, the amount of content creators like on this space is unbelievable. It's such a desired, profession nowadays. And the poker community is just such a small subset of views that are coming in on YouTube. You talk about like major news drama versus, poker, there's going to be way less people interested in like a poker video. Brad Owen came into the scene and proved that what that ceiling could be, and in my opinion, Brad Owen proved to the world that there's at least 1 million people that want to watch this type of content. And for me, that wasn't a ceiling. That just showed some of the potential. I believe the ceiling is actually much higher. But still, 1 million people is less than, the 360 million in America alone. So, within the space, it does feel saturated, as the total amount of eyes are smaller than in other niches, like bigger niches like F1 or sports or video games. More people playing Call of Duty than playing poker. So the best way that I went about this was, I'm never going to be Brad Owen, and I'm not going to try to be. I'm going to be Frankie C and come in with a different style of storytelling. And it's not going to be focused on each hand and necessarily the results. It's going to be more focused on this big overlying 3-act structure story that I've read about in school that I think could be applied to poker. And then luckily through my years of poker, I was connected to some really talented people sitting on the other side of the camera that would give me some really great high quality footage and hiring a videographer instead of using the phone on the table. Like, I'm going to stand out with better production and better storytelling. And even though that this market already has so many talented people, I could pave my own wave and work harder with the production than anyone else was doing. And I think that's kind of what I've become known for a bit with the production value and the storytelling.
Yep. Shout out to Adam Piken, who I'm also lucky enough to work with on this podcast and who does great job with so much stuff in poker. But so you mentioned Brad Owen. Who are some of the other influencers who maybe early on you looked up to?
Yeah, I love Brad and Andrew. The OGs. When I first started playing poker at 18, we talked about earlier. My brain, just the first thing I do when I play something is I want to get good at it and I want to beat people in it and I want to make money. So I just went on YouTube and I found Brad and Andrew and watched a lot of their videos very early on. And then as I've, kept making YouTube, I've actually looked for a lot of inspiration outside the poker space to try to build my brand and my business to be as mainstream as possible and aim to follow some other content creators who are getting tens of millions of views and see what I can take from them for inspiration and bring it into poker.
Who are some of those people? Mr. Beast, those type of guys?
Definitely. I mean, Mr. Beast has a big impact on me. I would say that his general mindset has had an influential role as far as inspiring me to keep building and, spending money instead of just pocketing it on the business, which is something that I probably do more than anyone. Ryan Trahan, and recently this guy named Togi, who's like a pure gambling channel, but he's inspired me with these long videos and essentially mixing into a video. Like, if the title of the video is about a deep run in the main event, in between that deep run to go gamble with Dana White or do this with go fight Sugar Sean and do these other kind of special things in the video. Mr. Beast described it really well. Again, taking a lot of inspiration from him. It's like the purple cow. It's like, how can I surprise someone with a purple cow, something that they never would have expected to be in that video, but it's there, and just keep giving people surprises where they want to come back. And my number one method is, as far as growing the channel, has always been leave them, the viewer, with something positive. Or the story might be maybe a sadder story where I lose a lot of money in the tournament, but leave them with something enough where they have a good feeling, and then when my next video is posted, they'll have that feeling kind of come back and want to watch the next one.
So I want to talk about, or at least mention the titles of some of your most viral or popular videos, or at least ones that stood out to me. So you have videos like The Darkest Chapter of My Gambling Career, I Snuck into a $1 million poker tournament, Multimillionaire Wants to Play for My Net Worth, I Got Kicked Out Because I Won Too Much Money. So certainly those are all captivating titles. Do you want to talk about any of those in particular?
Yeah, definitely. The videos that I make, I was mentioning this before we started, is I've edited almost every single one of my videos up into this point because of the fact that it costs a lot of money to hire editors. And I was like, if this is all on me to make this work, or I'm gonna have to go back to engineering. So if it's all on me, let's keep it on me and not try to delegate that part of the business yet. So all that says, I make really good videos, but you got to sell the story. Kind of like packaging on a brownie, or which we'll get to later, or any other product that we buy. You gotta sell it. So the title and the thumbnail is selling that product. And if it's not a good title and thumbnail, then people aren't going to watch the video and they won't get to enjoy that video that you spent 60 hours on. So if you're going to spend 60 hours on a video, you got to put a few hours into the actual title and thumbnail. I know Brad Owen kind of famously told me that was his least favorite part of the process with title and thumbnail, because you do all the work and now you got to do all this extra work. So yeah, title and thumbnail, something that I took really seriously. I actually brought on a consulting team very early on, again, spending money. And I was like, guys, I want to brainstorm every single week how we can make the best titles and thumbnails in the poker niche. And I think with their help, early on, I was able to come out with some really unique. The one you didn't mention that I thought you might was if I lose this hand, I owe my opponent a baby. Definitely one of the more like I kind of wow of my titles. But yeah, I think that I make great videos, and since I believe that I make great videos that I want people to watch, I gotta put a good title on it, just like PokerNews does with your guys' stories. It's all about the headline to get someone to click on it, and then because you guys are making good content and good stories and good articles that they're gonna enjoy once they get there. So yeah, you gotta wrap the bow, is what I say.
That's nice of you to say. I can tell you at PokerNews, we're paying a lot of attention to what you do and think that you're doing a fantastic job bringing people into poker. So, you're right that I should have mentioned that headline with Kitty, but that does transition into the next topic that I wanted to talk about, which is you're married to a famous poker pro, and it's come up a lot in your content. You mentioned that video, that prop bet. If you lose, you owe her a baby. So, how did you and Kitty first meet?
Yeah, we met at the poker tables. I think it was just fate and destiny coming together. There's a lot of different variables that, she flew in from Taiwan the day before. I flew in the morning of from Dallas, and we both shouldn't have played the game, but we ended up playing the same game. And then again, as fate would have it, the cards were dealt, and I had a really strong hand, pocket tens, and she had a strong hand, pocket queens. And as I'm all in, she knows she's going to call, but she wants more than the pot, so she's thinking, what else can she get from the situation? So she believes she can get a date from me if she asks for it.
What happens if I take all your money, we go date? I'm joking.
And yeah, that first question she asked me led to a date, and yeah, I guess the rest is history.
And how did that, obviously, that chance encounter kind of changes your whole life, but specifically, how did it impact your poker game? What's it like having access to a pro like that who can talk you through spots or help you study?
Yeah, when I met Kitty, I was 23 and I sucked at poker, even though I thought I was good and I was making money. But the reality was that I didn't know I was bad until she introduced me to her coach. His name is Stefan Sonheimer. He's from Germany, and as soon as I started working with him, I realized how much I didn't know about the game. So he completely changed the way my game was entirely, and that kind of led to initial losing as I was trying to learn the strategy that he was implementing me. But a year later, and Kitty and I talk a lot of strategy, but we usually work with different coaches. So getting into her space, she basically just knows all the best poker players. So when I'm with her, now we're talking to Shandeep. When I'm with her, now we're talking to just all the crushers. I never had that. I was never friends with those guys yet. So to meet her and become friends with all these people, now I'm just talking strategy 24/7 with these guys, picking up things, and influentially changed my game. And here I am a few years later, and I feel like I can compete with these guys at the highest level.
And you and Kitty have a baby together, and it was just Father's Day, so happy Father's Day, belated. How has that kind of changed your mindset on what you do? I've talked to people who say, they approach poker differently when they have kids, and, it feels more like gambling, or they feel guilty when they're going out or playing, or I don't know, has it given you more motivation to build your companies or be successful?
Definitely, I feel more motivated to build my companies than ever before. At the poker table, I would say that the biggest influence Tony has on me is patience. And, when you're changing back-to-back throw-ups and dirty diapers and crying nonstop, it has kind of tested you in ways that you haven't been tested before. And I just don't get frustrated or annoyed at spots or bad things that happen, because I feel like I've been tested to a much higher level now, and being a father is extremely difficult and rewarding. So as far as running my companies, I have a little goal on my phone right now, just to be financially independent from my Frankie C channel. And then my goal with the All-In Brownie is to build the business as much as possible and be able to really grow the businesses now. So when Tony's older, I can have more of the processes in place, teams to manage for me, not have to do all the work myself, and spend as much time with him as possible. So it's extremely motivating to have a son, and I'm trying to learn Chinese with him too. That's also, he motivates me to learn Chinese because I don't want him and Kitty to be talking about me, in a different language. I got to understand what they're saying. It undescribable how much he means to me.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about some of the latest pieces of content you put out and your latest ventures, but you already mentioned it briefly. So let's start off with the All-In Brownie company that you're starting, and tell us what this is and how it came about.
Yeah, the All-In Brownie was named by my fans. So the idea for the product came about 8 months ago, but we'll go back even a year and a half ago. I finally built Frankie C to, I had my most viral video that has about 4 million views. And after that, I was finally getting, after working really hard at just 10,000 views, which doesn't pay you any money, I was finally able to get a few 100,000 views. And it was really impactful moment for the business. And everyone sells different things, whether it be most primarily merchandise like t-shirts and sweatshirts. And a lot of people sell, they work with like poker coaching, and Chance Cornett is chip leader, and Doug Polk has his own site, and now Brad and them, they partner with Poker Room. So all these people that run their YouTube channels need to find a way to make money from it, since YouTube, even at a few 100,000 views, isn't paying more than it costs to run the channel with the editors and the time. So I was like, I always wanted to do a product, and I just didn't know what to do until I met a manufacturer for a brownie. This was 8 months ago, and he had spent 2 years and a lot of money on a recipe and a formula, and just didn't have any marketing for it. He's like, Frank, I have this great product, but I don't know how to get it to as many people as possible. So it was the right timing to have a meeting with him. Most importantly, I was like, I need to try your brownie to see if I like it. And I really, really enjoyed it. He had made it for very focused, working out individuals. So it only had 1 gram of sugar. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it a little bit more. So now it has 5 grams of sugar, but still at 278 calories. And now I feel like I have a product that really resonates well with this other goal of mine, which was to promote health and wellness within poker. There's a lot of people that, don't prioritize their health because they sit 13, 14 hours playing poker, and you got to eat what you can eat. You're hungry,
Yeah.
you got to eat whatever you can get. So to have a product for them where I feel like I'm making a difference working with the manufacturer that cared so much about the ingredients and everything being natural. And he knows a billion things about how a Cliff Bar and other of these other protein options actually don't give you the right natural ingredients. Like, for example, monk fruit is where we get our sugars from the ground. Other people use artificial sugar. And there's so many studies about, the difference between that. And then I'm using a special protein. It's called collagen. It's good for your bones. It's good for your hair. So these other positive benefits that these have, in a space where so much of potential money that I could make would come from working with slots companies and sports betting companies. And I do not have any desire to work with slots and sports betting because I don't do it myself. I want to promote something that I do myself, and I eat a lot of protein. I like to work out, and I feel like, okay, a business where it firstly takes care of my goal, which is to create a business that's going to financially take care of my family. And secondly, I'm putting a positive impact into the world and to poker. So to grow the game of poker, to offer a healthy product, I think it kind of was like that perfect storm of all the things that I'd ever desired into the All-In Brownie.
And it looks like you recently had like a launch party or a meet and greet type thing where you raised some money for the brownie, and it looked like you had some cool people in the poker community there supporting you.
Yeah, definitely. We got a great turnout. Like all the YouTubers that you might think. I'm lucky enough to know most of them now, and I'm really close with Corey Eyring, so he came, and I put a heads up game versus Bryce Hall, who's kind of getting into poker, this big influencer in kind of the mainstream space. He came, and then I had the grinder there, and
Nice.
it was awesome to see all the support I got. So very thankful everyone showed up.
Yeah, that's great. So some of the other recent things that have caught headlines that you've done are you fought an MMA fighter, and I believe this stemmed from a poker bet that you guys had where if he lost, he had to subscribe to your channel or something like that. And if you lost, you had to get in the ring with him, which kudos to you. You kept your word and you did. And it looks like you took some kicks from him, maybe a couple punches. So what brought that on?
Yeah, more than a couple for sure. So the idea, first of that bet was so one-sided. Like, it wasn't to subscribe, but it was a bit of that. It was a bit that could be a viral video for me because Sean has like 5 million followers, but he follows 0 people.
Oh,
so he was gonna follow me on Instagram, and then publicly it shows that he only follows 1 person, which would be me. So people are gonna like go to his account and be like, "Why is he only following 1 person? This Frankie guy." So I thought that would build attention, and I can make a short about it, like how I'm the only follower of Sean O'Malley. So it was, I thought, a actual very strong prize for me in a game that I would never lose. Heads up match for Sean. I'd met him. He actually watched my channel. It's how I got the introduction, and I DM'd him on Instagram, and he came to Vegas. We played 1-3 together, and I was like, okay, he's very new to poker. We'll do this bet. But as the heads up match was starting, and I tried to give him as many help as possible. I had Eric Person sitting in his corner. He was getting coaching from. At the beginning, I was showing him cards, and I think that all kind of stemmed from me wanting him to win. Again, back to the goal of growing the game of poker. That is an important thing to me, and it's kind of a cliche we all use, like who's good for the game. It is important to me to grow the game of poker because that helps my business. And more people playing means more people watching videos about him. So I kind of manifested his win, and I was not actually ready for the reality that I had to fight him. And I could have went in there like out of shape and just embarrassed myself, but I went fully into it, and I went on a really strict diet. I lost 5 pounds and in 3 weeks, and trained 6 days a week, twice a day. So it was a very like intense training. And when I got there, I still wasn't ready for what was about to come. I mean, he's so fast. And in the 3rd round, his eyes changed where he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to knock you down." And then I couldn't stay up. So it didn't help that I had a $1,500 bet that I was going to last 3 rounds. So I was really motivated to stay up, even though the punches were really wearing me down.
Did you regret that one, or all said and done, do you think it was worth it?
Oh, all said and done, I don't regret anything. I thought it was awesome. Again, how do we grow the game? We work with people in mainstream. UFC is massive. Sean O'Malley is the guy. He's the biggest name in the bantamweight division. And I have a story forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, I fought a UFC champion. Like, that you can't take that away from me. And there's no permanent damage, so.
What was your body like after that? Were you purple and sore for a few days?
Adrenaline is so real in a moment like that where your body's like fight or flight. After the fight, I had bruises and scratches, but I didn't feel a thing. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, take a shower after and still good. Go to dinner. And it wasn't until 4 or 5 hours after where it actually kicked in how much pain I was in. Legs were just toast. Ribs were bruised, and it was hard to laugh or cough or drink water. So I was definitely affected for the next week of just like not doing anything besides like sitting and like resting. But a week later, I was fine.
Like you said, you have a lifetime story out of it. So there you go. So something else, you had a new video come out where you played heads up against Daniel Negreanu. And it looked like, was this actually at his house here in Vegas that you were playing?
Lake Las Vegas.
So you get to play with Negreanu in Las Vegas. How did that come together, and what was that like?
Yeah, I challenged Daniel Negreanu publicly to a heads-up match. And I realized that when you're Daniel Negreanu and you're at the top of the field, like, you're going to get a lot of challengers because that gets the most eyes and attention. So I wanted to do it in a way where I offered something to him, as I know him playing me is offering me something huge. It's to play someone that's been my idol in poker for a long time and make a video, which is going to make me money. So I offered to edit a video for him, like offer my services of editing to him in exchange for the heads up match. And I'd met him at a few parties before, so I'm not a complete stranger. And with a bit of working with his editor, I'm such a nerd that I'll find any editor, I'll just talk with them at parties. And so I got his number and I texted his editor. It's like, can you ask Daniel this, ask Daniel this, ask Daniel this? And through him, thank you, Christian, for all the help. Through Christian, we planned the entire time at his. I try to make it as convenient for him as possible. Just play at your house, only 2 hours. When you want to work with someone who's above you, you got to offer something to them too. So I'm very appreciative for him. People loved the video because it was like a very real moment for me in my poker career, and a really cool just conversation back and forth. And we're playing poker outside in a mansion in Vegas with the GOAT of poker. It's like, yeah, and I won, so even better.
Who are some of the other people you played heads up against? I know I was at Resorts World a couple months ago, and you had some heads up matches going on there. Was it Landon Tice, I think you were playing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Who are some other people you've taken on heads up?
Yeah, so I had the match versus Daniel for like $10,000, a lot of money. And I was like, wait, I've never played heads up before. That's the problem. So I opened a challenge to the world. I was like, okay, anyone wants to play me that can. Landon was the first one to respond, and I knew him. So I took him up on his offer. And then after that, it was a lot of people online who I didn't know that wanted to play me. So I started playing online against some unknown people, but maybe fans or followers. And then I played Patrick Linner, known as Pads. And I've been following him on Instagram. He's a beast. And then I was kind of, again, everything I do, I'm trying to tell a good story. So I was like, for the story of Daniel, wouldn't it be good if I go ask Doug Polk, the guy who beat him for $1 million? So I fly to Austin, I played Doug Polk and asked him for advice on how to beat Daniel. And I flew out to Korea to play Triton, and I tried to play some of those guys. And I tried to play more than Kabrhel, and those guys want to play for a little bit too much money. So I can't afford the buy-ins yet, but one day when we can afford the buy-ins, we'll play them.
Well, let's definitely talk about that Triton, because those are for sure the highest buy-in tournaments, toughest fields in the world. And so what was that experience like for you?
It was crazy. It was crazy. The Jeju one, I think, gets the most amount of amateur players. So at my tables, there's probably like 7 pros, me, and like maybe an amateur or 2. So honestly, I kind of knew what I was expecting when I went to go play. My entire goal of it was just soak in the experience, like really watch other people playing and kind of see what they're doing on different turns and different rivers, and try to learn as much as I can. And then if I cash, that'd be awesome. I sold enough action where it wasn't, even though it was a lot of money for the buy-in, it wasn't a massive financial risk for me. Just was able to go 1 for 2 in the cashes, and I felt very comfortable. I felt like it pushed me to be the best player I've ever been.
And you mentioned Martin Kabrhel. He's obviously someone who's been in the PokerNews a lot recently for his deep runs and antics and all these events. And since we were talking about, growing poker and what's good and not for the game, it's probably worth talking about. I don't know. Have you played a lot with him, and do you have thoughts on his whole shtick? Do you think that it's good because it makes entertaining clips and keeps people entertained, or do you think it's annoying at the table?
Yeah, so I've never played a high enough buy-in to play against him, but I was playing the 1500 shootout, and he's at the table next to me. So in one of my upcoming videos, I go up to him and I have a conversation with him. And every interaction he has is super interesting and unique and kind of all over the place. And crazy is a fair word to describe to Martin. Maybe screw loose. And although obviously he's a very smart man. And I asked him to play a heads-up match. And I said, I'm a huge fan of yours. I walk up, I'm a huge fan of yours, Martin. I'm an amateur poker player, but I just want to play you heads up. Kind of really trying to tell this story to him. And he goes, okay, I'll play you. $2 million. And I'm like, Martin, I don't have $2 million. So just for you, I'll do discount. $1 million. And so I have a standing offer to play him for $1 million. But to answer your question, I could see how when you spend $250,000 on a tournament, you want certain amenities and certain guarantees about your time and your seats and your drinks and your experience playing. So just forking up so much money. And it's kind of a gray area for like what the actual directors of the floor can do as far as managing his antics and talking and the other kind of weird and frankly absurd things that he does. So it's definitely a gray area. Definitely wouldn't want to take him out of the game because I think that he is absolutely hilarious. I would say every PokerNews post about him, I've watched it because I'm ready to see what the next funny thing that he's doing and he has a switch clearly, like he'll turn serious. So he can turn it on and off, and he clearly loves to turn it on. And I think that's just inherently funny. And I can't wait to see more from him. Literally, what I'm trying to do what everyone's trying to avoid. I want to sit down with him and play with him, and I think other players might hope he sits at a different table.
Yeah, well, hey, that $1 million match, that would make for a good video.
One day, yeah.
Maybe one day.
One day.
So we're filming this at the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas, and I want to talk to you about how your summer's been going, what you're going to be playing. But first, I want to ask you about the deep run in the main event you had 2 years ago, because yeah, you had a pretty deep run in the $10,000 buy-in main event. You finished 229th for a little over $50,000. So that's really getting deep in there. What day did you make it to? Is that day 3, day 4?
That's day 5.
Day 5. So what was that run like for you?
Yeah, I made one of my favorite videos about this run. It was titled "How I Won $51,000 in the World Series of Poker," and that experience was so special because of it being my first main event. And at the time, it's 2 years ago. I'm much worse at poker, and it was very, very hard for me to survive on day 3. Day 2 through day 4, I was short stacked the entire. I never could build a chip stack. I was always short stack. I was always, quite frankly, stressed and anxious and worried and playing tight and not knowing and just really feeling overwhelmed. Felt like I couldn't compete with the other Europeans at my table. It was a very Euro heavy table I was at on day 4. To a point where I ended up getting it all in ace jack versus aces versus kings, and my ace jack won. Wow. And that kind of set me into, that was on day 3, and that set me to day 4, where I actually had 100 blinds, and I felt very comfortable, and it was the most fun day of my life. After I'd finally beat that short stack of day 2, day 3, and then finally had 100 bigs on day 4. Very special moment. I put a video out that I probably spent like personal 150 hours editing. So definitely recommend watching that video. I think I go back and watch it consistently just to remind myself how special that experience was, and something that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think I do remember you maybe talking about having a really tough European heavy table. Are there any notable players who you remember playing against on any day?
No, and now I probably wouldn't think the table was hard. So just at the time, probably very overwhelming. They weren't known players, but that doesn't mean a lot of the unknown players too are really top guys.
Yeah. And so I think I remember you mentioned you made a video about it. You were filming content during the main event. You had your phone on a little stand, and they've actually made some new rules at the World Series of Poker this year where they're kind of, making it a little more.
It's not allowed.
It's not allowed. Okay, I wasn't even completely sure because they've adjusted them a little bit. But yeah, how does that change the game for you?
Yeah, it changes everything for a lot of people, especially a lot of the people that are beginning their stages of content and trying to make videos. For most people, they're going to have to start filming off the tables during breaks and do a little bit of editing to show the tables and little recaps. For me, I'm lucky enough to be able to afford a videographer who follows me around throughout the tournament. So I don't do anything on the table. I just have Jack, thankfully, able to film me as I'm playing. And it's a game changer for me as I get complete focus on what's happening in front of me with the 2 cards and the chips. And I don't have to think about turning the camera off. Did I get the flop? Is everything recording? So that's a really big difference that I'm able to have. I actually used to run 2 cameras at the same time to get 2 angles. So to not have to do that is great. And then, of course, for the game integrity, no technology being used, I think that makes people more comfortable than before.
Yeah, certainly an understandable rule. Like you said, game integrity and concerns about cameras on the table or things like that. But so sticking with this year's WSOP, how's it been going so far?
It's been great. It's been great. I've cashed 4 of 7 WSOP events, which is my main focus is trying to win the bracelet this year, keeping the buy-ins between the 1 to 3K range. We didn't talk on it, but I did play the 25K heads up championship. So that's going to be a really awesome video. I'm editing it right now. It'll be out this week, and all my WSOP content will be out this week. And, we get Daniel Negreanu, who does the daily vlogs. DePaulo in the past has made daily vlogs, and then you see Rampage and other YouTubers make their videos from it. But I think mine will be the most special World Series of Poker content. Lucky enough to have Jack following me with the videographer and the storytelling of it. I'm really excited to start posting these. And the the win 2200, I end up making day 2, which is tomorrow. So it's a big mystery bounty. So I got sweat tomorrow, playing the Millionaire Maker today. And I'm just loving poker. I usually take about 2 days off a week to focus on the business and do other work. I usually late reg every tournament at about 5 or 7 p.m. so I can get work done during the day. But every time I'm not playing poker, I'm thinking about playing more poker. So it's a good spot to be. I love the game right now.
So you've got the video on the 25K Heads Up Championship coming out. I don't know how much of the results you want to spoil, but can you talk about what it was like playing such a prestigious event? And also, did playing Daniel Negreanu Heads Up prepare you for that?
Definitely. I've been playing so much Heads Up that I felt called to play this tournament. It's a 1 in 64 chance at a bracelet. You will not get those odds unless you play a 250K or higher buy-in. So to get those good odds, I had to take the opportunity. And for the storytelling of the video, you'll kind of see why this was such a big obstacle for me, because we hear $25,000, we hear $250,000 buy-ins. I'm sure everyone listening now relates with this statement. That's a lot of money, $25,000 to put into one tournament. It kind of becomes like arbitrary numbers, but it's real money. So I don't want $25,000 to spend, not even sitting there ready to go. So I had to go online and find the investors and really use all my connection. I'm calling sponsors, like, can you sponsor this tournament? So it's networking and it's using my business as leverage to get staking into the tournament. So all that is part of the story, which I think is going to be a really entertaining one that'll come out next week.
Next week. Okay, well, we'll look out for that video. Should be a good one. And you're going to be going to play the Millie Makers, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I have a few more general questions that I like asking guests as we wrap up. The first one is, what's a book that you would recommend people?
Yeah, the book I just read recently, I read a lot of books that I'll recommend to you if you ask me in person about writing and storytelling and all those things that come together about making good YouTube video. But more general, this is for everyone, is a book called The Slight Edge that I've recently read, and it just really hammers in the point that the work you put in today, the results aren't shown tomorrow or the next day or the next week or next month, even next year. It's just 5-10 years. And a really good example of that is myself. It's my channel. I was working 60 hours a week on every single video, getting 3,000 to 4,000 views. And I just kept doing that. And now you go to my channel and you'll see every video has hundreds of thousands of views. And you think, oh, okay, that's always been like that. But all those videos that I made 2 years ago, they got the bump after, all like two years later. And I have to remind myself of this all the time. Again, when I'm learning Chinese, right now it feels like I can't do anything. I don't know any vocab. It feels like the most stressful. I feel stupid. And it's like such a hard thing to continue. It makes me want to quit every day. But I just remind myself the slight edge means every day you show up, you put the work in, and you can't see the results, but you're building to that. And then in 5 years, when I can speak fluent Chinese, people are going to be like, wow, how can he do that? And it's going to be a really cool, really, 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 really awesome thing that's going to be in my arsenal.
Very nice. And you're still young, so this isn't as good of a question for you, but what is a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Oh, definitely. I would have used my 18 to 22-year-old times a little bit more smart. Here's my advice. If you catch yourself on like a Sunday and, you've worked hard throughout the week, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Today you watch football, you eat wings, you just chill, you drink, and every single Sunday you're doing that and it's consistent and you're so excited for Saturday, you don't have to do anything. I regret the days that I wasted because now I don't ever get a day to just relax and I'm trying to build, a production company, my YouTube channel, and now the All-In Brownie company. Like startups usually fail. So I would definitely take the time to enjoy your relationships with people. But I think that days where you get literally zero done, you should be looking to take those out and find productivity even on days that you don't. Small things, get a workout in, call your mom, call your sisters. And part of the slight edge too, it's like showing up every day. It's not just about your career. It's also about your relationships. It's also about your health and your personal development. So like how that looks for me is like my personal development. I'm trying to learn Chinese. for my family. It's about doing a nice thing for Kitty every single day. For my career, it's, all the work that I have to do with my production company and my All-In company. And then one more thing, kind of for personal development, is that I want to win a main event title. So it's like how every day I'm showing up to try to achieve those goals by just doing one small thing. I learn one Chinese word a day. I get one workout in a day, and a lot of work per day. I probably spend more time on my career than the other facets of my life. But yeah, try to eliminate the nothing days and just find productivity even when it's hard.
All right, last question for you, Frankie. So poker is a game that really has so many metaphors and life lessons that can be drawn from it. So with that in mind, what is your favorite life lesson from poker?
Poker has taught me a lot about risk. And, we say pot odds, but essentially the price that you're getting laid to win the hand. And in life, I think it's the same way. We got to take risks and calculated risks. And like, for instance, something that you might not want to go to, but there's a small chance something awesome happens. I don't want to go to this party. I don't feel like going out tonight, like kind of like a social party. I don't feel like going out tonight. But maybe there's a chance, you meet the CEO of GG Poker, you meet the CEO. I'm using this example in my case, but for you, it could be something totally different. That's worth the risk. It's take the risk, and it doesn't have to work every single time.
That's great. Well, Frankie, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nice to meet you, and excited to see more Martin Kabrhel PokerNews shorts.
Absolutely. No shortage of those.